He touted his own plans to lower the dropout rate and hire more teachers. Tonight on 11 News, we're kicking off a three-part series with Congressman Scott McInnis. Last year, McInnis announced that he would not be seeking another term in office, a place he's been since 1992. Politically, a lot has happened since he announced, including Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell deciding not to run again for health reasons, leaving the door open for McInnis to run for Senate. Recently, I sat down with the congressman, and now we bring you part one of Scott McInnis in his words. The big question I think most people have on their minds, you were very successful in Congress. You had racked up a lot of seniority. Why at this point in your life did you decide to step aside from all that?
Well, you know, I've been in elected office for 22 years, and I can tell you that the decision was a very emotional decision. My wife and I spent many, many hours thinking about this, and because we do love it. I love it. And some of my colleagues have left Congress. They're angry, or they're disappointed in the system, or they're discouraged, or they're tired. I didn't fit in any of those categories. I mean, I really enjoy the service and the people in this congressional district. But the reality of it is, after 22 years, my wife and I wanted to spend more time in Colorado. And that really was the priority decision. So, and I wanted to go out when I was under no political pressure.
Were there any set of circumstances that led up to this? Where there's a chain of events, you looked at things, or was this a cumulative thing of all the years you've been in office?
I wish I could explain it, because I told one of my friends it was kind of like falling in love. All of a sudden, you knew it was time. You just had that feeling. And Lori and I one day sat down and said, you know, how much longer are we going to continue to do this? And it was 7 days a week, and I loved it. Let me tell you, I look forward to going to work every day. And so it was not accumulation. It was just, it's time for the transition.
If you'd have known about Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell's health situation and or him leaving office as a senator, would have that changed your mind about leaving office when you did?
A year ago, probably so. But my wife and I had made this decision, as you know, some time back, and we gave pretty early notice of it because we felt a deep amount of allegiance to our staff. A year ago, I would have been in that U.S. Senate race in 30 seconds. I mean, no question about it. But the fact is, and my wife and I had our mind set on this, we wanted to come back to Colorado, and we really do have I mean, we're at the top of a mountain that very few people ever have an opportunity or privilege to climb. And as we look out into the horizon, we see other mountains we'd like to do and climb, and that also allow us to stay in Colorado. So when Campbell then announced that he was going to retire a couple months ago, it just wasn't the right time. I wish it would have been, because that was always a desire of mine. But it just wasn't right, and my wife and I are very happy with the decision we've made.
Do you see a set of circumstances that could make Scott McInnis run for office again?
Well, yeah, I mean, you never know. I learned early on, don't say never. I mean, things could happen, but right now that's not my focus. Right now my focus is truly to come back home, be a part of the community, and be much more of a player in Colorado than back in Washington.
A lot of people have mentioned you possibly running for governor in 2006. Is that still on the back burner, something you think about?
Sure, that's an option that can, you know, that exists out there, and I think any office. Heck, I don't know, you know, if I could afford it financially, I always thought I'd like to be a greenskeeper out on the golf course, you know, or a sheriff's deputy. You know, I can't ever get that law enforcement out of my blood. But so there are opportunities in the future that we could assess as they come up, but right now that's not my focus.
The Denver Post is reporting you have a large war chest, maybe as much as $2 million. Do you need to work anymore?
Well, first of all, the war chest is, I can't use that money personally, and it's about $1.3 million, and I'm coming up with some pretty exciting ideas. A portion of it I'll contribute to other candidates that I think are sincere and will serve the district well. Now, do I have to work financially? Yes. A lot of people think that I'm under the old congressional retirement system, which really was kind of a boondoggle. That was changed about 4 years before I went into office. My system is much similar, is very similar to a regular federal employee. I can't draw any retirement until I think I'm 62 years old, and my retirement at that point in time, I think it'd be around $28,000 a year. And if I died, my wife would receive $14,000 a year for retirement. So we do not have any kind of money chest out there, so I intend to go to work the day after I leave Congress.
McInnis did say that he would like to take the rest of his remaining political money to set up a trust fund to give an American flag to every graduating high school student in the 3rd District in perpetuity. Tomorrow night, we get McInnis's take on what he's going to do after his term ends in January. It's in his words, a conversation with Congressman Scott McInnis, only on 11 News, Colorado.
The consumer
Scott McInnis. Yesterday, he talked about why he's leaving his seat in Congress and what, if any, future political plans he may have. Tonight, we ask him about his plans when his term ends in January and his thoughts on term limits, among other things. It's part 2 of Scott McInnis, in his words, only on 11 News, Colorado. When and if you do leave politics this time around, what kind of other work interests you?
Well, I actually have made some commitments in that arena. One, I'm going to go with it's considered probably one of the top powerhouses in the country, a law firm called Hogan and Hartson. It's located in Denver, and they want to expand into the West. They're headquartered in Washington. They're the largest law firm and the oldest law firm in Washington. And I'll be working out of Denver primarily in the West on energy issues, corporate issues, general business issues, water issues, and so on. I'm also going to go on probably a corporate board or two. Some people think we're leaving. As you can tell by sitting right here, nobody's going to leave this. I'm not leaving this. Our home's Grand Junction.
At one point in your political career, you had a self-imposed term limit on yourself, and then you changed your mind. Are you glad you made the decision to change your mind, and what'd you get done in that extra time?
Yeah, let me say that, first of all, that has always been misinterpreted. That came from not, at that time, term limits was a big rage. And they had you sign a pledge that you would only serve so many. I refused to sign any of that. I didn't say that. Where that emitted from was in Steamboat Springs. I was asked in an interview, geez, how long do you think you're going to go back for? And I said, well, I'll go back and serve 2 or 3 terms.
Even with all your experience and seniority you have, how hard is it still to get something done in Washington, D.C.?
Well, some people go back there and say, I'm not going to be in this so-called good old boy network. And by the way, now it's not boys, it's girls too, as you know, the good old network. And this government moves so slow. I went back there pretty early on and said, look, best thing to do is figure out that the system's not going to be changed overnight and understand how the system works. If you want to change the system, the best way to do is figure out how to do it within. How does it work? And you learn. Congress, service in the government, I think by the position itself, pretty well requires learning every day. It is not a dull job. It is 7/24, whatever they call that, 24/7.
You've left the door open to run for office again, but if you don't, you've kind of left a little bit of a legacy in place. Your brother-in-law, Matt Smith, is running for your seat in Congress. Josh Penry's coming up, starting to get into the State House and things. Do you feel you've left a little bit of a legacy behind?
Well, I do. I mean, I feel very proud about, for example, the Colorado Conservation Area. That's very important to me. We were able to accomplish that with lightning speed, and in Congress doing something like that is pretty well unheard of. Same with the sand dunes. We got that with the White River National Forest. A number of different issues that we dealt with. So the answer to that is yes, and I'm very proud of people like Josh Penry, who I'm confident will be the next state representative. And I mean, I've made great acquaintances, and I've had a lot of staff over these years that are now maturing into their mid-20s or early 30s, and to the person, every one of them has been a success in the arena that they've chosen. And I'd like to think I played a little part of that and had some on that. But I can be replaced with a 2-minute oath, and it doesn't take long for, to move on. But I felt very gratified by the time I had.
Now, tomorrow in Part 3, we asked McInnis about his interest in the president's job at Mesa State College and his relationship with President Bush. It's Scott McInnis in his words tomorrow night on 11 News, Colorado. Local religious leaders are released. He has discussed a variety of topics with us. Tonight he talks about his interest in becoming the president of Mesa State College and his relationship with President Bush. Here's Part 3 of a conversation with Scott McInnis in his words. It was pretty much a given about a year ago that Tim Foster was going to get the Mesa State College presidency, and still your name surfaced in and around it. What were the set of circumstances that happened there, and how did you get involved in that?
Well, let me tell you what had happened because of CSU. If you remember, Mark Holtzman went to CSU, and there was a lot of controversy about that. So as a result, I think the Mesa State trustees said, look, we want to make sure we stay at arm's length from anything like that. So before we talk to anybody, you have to submit an application. Well, with Mesa State, because of this, because they were concerned about that, justifiably, they said, we won't even talk to you unless you file an application. So I filed an application simply to have a discussion with them. And while I sat down with them, I determined very early on in this conversation, look, this is not my bailiwick. This is something that should be for somebody else. Although I'm a strong supporter of Mesa State, I think it's great.
What's your relationship with President Bush?
Well, my relationship with President Bush is, I knew the president before he was governor, and I was pretty proud to say one of the people that would go down to Texas and participated in. He wasn't persuaded by me, but I was one of, I'm sure, many that would sit down and begged him to run for the presidency. And I think he's done an extraordinary job under extraordinarily tough circumstances. I think he's a man of deep conviction. I think he's a man who feels that he has a calling where to lead this country. I think he believes deeply in the security of this country and the principles that this country stands for.
Your thoughts on the war now. Where are we at and where do we need to be in the very near future?
Well, Rick, we're in a very messy situation, and there wasn't any question that we were going to get there. I mean, but the issue's very clear to me. We either fight it over there or we fight it on our homeland. We didn't start this war. This war was started on September 11th. And I don't care what some of the do-gooders out there say. The fact is that even the Catholic priesthood has some bad priests in it. And the reality of it is there are some very evil people out there. And September 11th is just one example of what they intend to do. And the messier this thing gets, and I've never seen a war that's not. I mean, Plato once said that the only people that have seen the end of war are dead. Now, Churchill once said, the only thing worse than war is losing one. We cannot afford to lose to these type of people out there because they're not going to stop unless we stop them. We have to go out. We have to preempt this kind of thing, and our lives have changed.
One last question.
Yeah, sure.
Are you enjoying the uncertainty that hardly anyone knows what's going through your mind, what's going to happen next, and the uncertainty of it all?
Well, actually, the uncertainty of it all is probably made it very difficult to transition. When my wife and I made this decision, we had no job opportunities. We had we had opportunities, I guess, but no offers. I mean, we didn't have anything else lined up. We just had the feeling that it was time to move on. And so there was a lot of uncertainty on there. And I have immense feelings about the issues for this district, about the people, and I feel a deep honor to have served them. So it's not getting anything off my chest. It's just once again thanking the viewers, thanking you. We've had many years of communication, good communication. Just thanking for that privilege. It's truly a privilege.
And we'd like to thank Congressman McInnis for being so gracious with his time for this series of interviews. Special thanks to his staff in Washington, D.C. also that helped make this happen.
On the way on 11 News Colorado, KKCO Fruta hosting the Mike the Headless Chicken Days this weekend.